And welcome, everyone, to another episode of Orlando Magic Pod Squad. Dante Marcatelli, Jeff Turner, David Steele, George Galante, and we're going to have some fun here with this one. Joining us on this edition is Ty Eastham. He is the producer for all Magic telecasts on Valley Sports Florida, the vice president of broadcasting for the Orlando Magic. And we thought we'd have some fun, peel back the curtain a little bit on what it takes to put a broadcast on Valley Sports Florida. And the guy responsible for keeping all of us in line is this guy. Ty Eastham. That is not an easy job to do, Ty, is it? I would imagine.
No, it's similar to being like a kindergarten teacher, I think.
Yes, I would imagine. Is this
that's
a night
where we're going? Okay, all right.
Yeah. Is this a nightmare for a producer to have a day off and have to see all of us again right away?
It's like, let's just start talking about tomorrow.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll get our
production meeting.
That should be what it is. It should be the production meeting right now.
Yeah.
Now that would be a good podcast.
That would be. Well, we could do that. We could have a little production meeting at the end. We might have a reveal on this podcast, by the way. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that, right? We might have a little reveal at the end. And technically, Ty, all five of us are on the broadcast every night, right? The three of us, and then George, if the official makes a bad call.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That squeaky voice you hear through the headsets.
I know I'm always too loud when Dante looks over at me and he goes, "Hey, settle down."
you can hear George every home game right behind David and JT.
My question is, do the refs know that they don't know it's you? They've got to know by now.
I feel like I've masked it. I have a pretty good routine. I like to,
I've seen it.
I like to shout something out loud.
This, by the way, it's just this. That's all. Yeah.
Act like I'm looking off to the side. I do one of those. Like I'm not paying attention to the game at all. Like one of those. Joel thinks I should get the COVID mask back on though. The COVID mask should definitely be coming back.
That certainly helped you. Well, Ty, give us a little insight for everybody listening, the Magic fans and all that. Kind of the day to day. What it takes to kind of put a television broadcast on, and we'll get a little bit into your background and stuff like that. Tell some fun stories of a young David Steele and Jeff Turner. But what kind of the day-to-day on what you're responsible for now?
Well, like today, we're the day before a game tomorrow. So I'll sit down here soon and try to map out what we're going to talk about in our pregame show with you guys, and then what we're going to do in our open before the tip, and just some of the sponsored elements throughout the game. What those graphics or video might look like. Figure out what Dante's moment's going to be with you, and then we'll have a meeting tomorrow after shoot around. So tomorrow there'll be a shoot around. So we'll all meet at the Advent Health Training Facility. We'll watch a little bit of practice, and then we'll go into a room and we'll kind of meet, and I'll tell you guys what I came up with, and you guys will tell me, let's change that. And not most of the time you don't, but you guys are good. So
that guy doesn't play for the Pistons anymore. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. We'll find out what Is This Anything is tomorrow. And then we'll meet that. And then I get to the truck around 12 o'clock. Crew gets there around 12:30. And I, print out all the rundowns for everybody, and they start building the graphics and building the all the video and everything like that to get us ready for the game that night.
How would you describe what it's like in the truck during a game? What is that like? Controlled chaos, uncontrolled chaos?
It's controlled chaos. I mean, it's if things are going well, it's a pretty smooth operation. We've all done it so much that I know if somebody on the outside coming in looks at it and go, oh my gosh, all these monitors, all the, everything going on, it's crazy. But after you've done it, you know where everything is, what's going on, and it's not that crazy to me. So I don't see it, but it gets crazy when there's technical issues, which we have, and it gets crazy when there's big moments. That's when it gets really chaotic, because we're all trying to organize everything, all the replays, all the graphics, and things like that. And so when there's a big moment, it gets a little more amped up.
Is the craziest time though, Ty, when David Steele's monitor goes out at the desk, and and he starts yelling on his talk back. I mean, is that really the hardest time for you?
It pretty much is. That's when my ire gets up. I'm like, oh my gosh, the monitor's out. Can't we have good audio? What, how hard is this?
That's a pretty good impression.
It's like,
well, the thing is when you've got an obstructed view seat to begin with, which is
Here
what
we
we have
go.
in
I love
Cleveland.
it. Yes.
And then the
you
monitor
try
goes
coming out and calling the game like this.
It's a challenge.
It's, but the bigger challenge is I can literally not do anything other than rely on someone else to do something. So I can and I'm on headsets and we're yelling at people, hey, get this fixed, blah, blah, blah. But we have no idea what they're physically doing. All we can say is we're working on it. We're working on it. So I'm like, meanwhile, a game's going on. So I got to, focus on that. But, luckily we did get your monitor back last night.
Yes, we did. After 45 minutes, it was quick.
I realize that. Yeah.
But, no, I mean,
those are frustrating things for me. Those are frustrating things for me as well.
Fans, if we do it right, fans have no idea that there's crazy things going on. And in Mexico City, I was not there, but Jeff and Dante had just an insane situation. And Ty, you too, in that situation. Yeah. I mean, it was a challenging night for everybody. But I was at home and I watched the game, and as I told all you guys afterwards, I couldn't tell that you guys were having all those problems. You pulled it off so seamlessly. So that's a credit to what you guys do.
Yeah, Mexico City was probably the worst broadcast experience of my career. It was really, really a bad one.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
And we'd probably second that, wouldn't we, Dante?
Yeah. It takes a lot to get JT worked up, but he took his headset off and said, I've never been a part of anything like that in my life.
I saw JT on the Snoop cam throw his headset. So,
that's what he did. That's exactly right.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was sitting next to those guys, and as soon as Dante goes, good night, everybody, both of them just took their headsets off, slammed them on the table, looked at the guy next to him, was like, that was the worst thing we've ever done. The worst thing we've ever done.
We had I had a former director a while ago. When something would go bad, and he'd be like, "Guy at home don't know." So
yeah,
it's kind of our motto. Guy at home don't know, then it's all right. Okay.
Don't know. Yeah,
what's funny? Right. What's funny is the A2 in Mexico City. There's a language barrier, so the audio people in Mexico City gave me the same look as the audio people in Charlotte for some reason. There's certain cities you go to where you're going to have trouble. But I think what would be interesting, guys, wouldn't it? Ty, you used to be with the team. You used to travel with the team and go to every city. And, everybody's seen the big television trucks that are out in front of these big arenas, and you do that at home. But that truck, you're no longer with us on the road. Kind of the way technology has evolved, and that kind of lends to what you're talking about. You're very limited in being able to help us on site because you're not there, which is kind of interesting.
Right. So the industry, it's called cloud control now, and there's still a truck. There's a truck at the arena, at the venue. So like last night, where were you last night? Cleveland last night. So there's a truck outside still, and our director's there. We still have our technical director, all our cameras, the same crew that would normally be there. But myself, our editor, our graphics operator, and our scorebug operator all stay back in Orlando. And we work out of a room called the cloud control room. And basically we're just watching everything on monitors, and our graphics operator, Derek, and Nate, our editor, they can control their machines through basically an internet connection. And the controller's there in Orlando, but they're hooked up through an internet connection, and they can control their machines and see everything. And we see all the monitors that we would normally see in the truck. And then we're just on headsets with everybody in Cleveland in the truck, and kind of, directing them that way. So it's a different way to do it. So it's literally when David's monitor goes out, I cannot do anything from Orlando other than tell somebody. But it's actually, when it first started before last season, I was a little skeptical of it. I didn't, I like being on the road with you guys as far as, we come up with ideas and the dinners and things like that. We really, we talk Magic basketball all the time. And you know, a lot of things are, you know, start up from that. But you know, we do these Zoom meetings now, and you know, actually the broadcast, I don't think, like I said, nobody can tell at home that it's different. And I think it's worked out pretty well. And my wife really likes that I don't travel, so
I can imagine.
it's been great for the family. Great for the family, and I enjoy it too. I like getting home. Like last night, I was home by midnight. I don't know what time you guys got home, but
Right,
It
exactly.
wasn't midnight.
It
about
wasn't
2.
midnight.
Yeah, no, it was not midnight. Not
You know,
midnight.
and the night
I think
before, I wasn't in Cleveland the night before either. So
That's true.
This is true.
That's
But
2
you didn't
wins.
get Mabel's barbecue, so that was
That's
a-
right.
That's the downside.
that's what I miss. I miss the food and I miss the company.
Well, we miss
Yeah.
Ty on the road.
We do.
Because
Yes, for
you know,
sure.
Ty is he's a triple D guy. He's a diner, dives, and drive-ins guy, and he's kind of
He's
our
a foodie.
producer. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a foodie. And we found Mabel's in Cleveland because of Ty. He'd read about it. So do you miss that part of it, Ty? Being just the restaurants and different
Oh,
places.
yeah.
Coordinator, dining coordinator. We missed that
Yeah.
for sure.
I mean, I kind of don't miss the pressure
You don't
of
miss
like, we're
us,
going to
I
eat
know, but
tonight.
you miss the
Ty.
food. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's always
that was a lot of pressure. But and for those that don't know, Ty comes up with the venue, and David's got to get us there. So that's
Yeah,
kind of the
right.
arrangement, right? There's a
Yeah,
pressure on
I'm-
both of you guys.
It's
Right.
hard.
They call
Listen, it's hard for us to go get dinner now when David and Ty are not on the trip. I don't even know how we go eat. I'm surprised
That's
we
fair.
don't starve.
Well,
Well,
Joel
you know,
does.
luckily we've established our places in different cities. So we
Yeah,
know,
sure.
oh,
Creatures of
like
habit
that
for sure.
place. Yeah. Yeah. So, so those triple D spots that we like in certain cities, we tend to go back to, like Mabel's and stuff. Although Mabel's isn't a triple D spot. It's a
That's true.
Chef Eric's, Michael Simon's restaurant. He's, you know, a celebrity chef
Nice.
kind of
There
guy.
you go.
Hey,
His barbecue place. Very good. Very good.
Well, just so you know,
Yeah,
since
it's
you
not a
left,
dive.
these guys have had nothing but oatmeal and grilled cheese sandwiches since you've
I had
left.
one more peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Good God. Ty,
You know, I
when
think-
was the
Oh, go ahead.
sorry? When was the first? I was in the truck for the first time when I was an intern. I didn't even know what the truck was. I got sent out there to do something for an NBC national game. I had to do stats, but you had to do it from the truck, and I had no experience of what the truck was, who was in the truck, what happens in the truck. And I remember when I went out there, it was so intense and so crazy that when the game was over, like I had nothing to do other than give the guy the score or something like that. And it was, I left there and my eyes were just like bulging out of my head. It was so intense. People were cursing at each other. It was wild. What was your first experience in a TV truck? Like, how did that come about?
Well, after my junior year of college, I
Go ahead and tell them where you
intern-
went.
go
Let's
ahead,
go ahead
drop
and get
that.
out
Go
there.
ahead. Just get
Go
it over
ahead.
with.
well, of course, it was Indiana University, the
Mhm.
best college in the land. So after college, or after my junior year at Indiana, I did an internship at then Sunshine Network, and it was during the summer. You know, it was for course credit also, but I knew I kind of knew about Sunshine Network. I kind of started to know about these sports networks a little bit, and I was interested in it. So I interned with them, and it was during the summer, so they didn't have a lot of things going on, a lot of events going on. They did Orlando Predators football. They did the Florida Georgia High School All-Star game that was over at the Citrus Bowl then. And I believe that might have been my first experience was in the truck for that Florida Georgia High School game, or it might have been a Predators game, but it was that summer, and you know, just seeing everything that went on. Those events were a little less hectic than, you know, an NBA game or a national broadcast. But it's still, as soon as I saw it, I was hooked. I was like, this is great. And you know, I will say 30 years ago, the industry was a lot different. There was a lot more cursing and yelling at people in the trucks back then. But nowadays it's a little more HR friendly, I would say, you know. So
David, has it been a good evolution, I would think,
Oh,
from those
yeah.
early days?
Yeah, Ty he's great. I've been sitting here thinking, probably fans don't understand is that the producer of a game is like another broadcaster.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is, because he's in the truck, like you said, or in the cloud, with whatever, wherever you are, Ty. Now, I still don't understand how that works, but you're in our ear, and we've talked with Ty about what we're doing, throughout the day, and so we're all on the same page. And it's like having an announcer who's not on air that is part of the broadcast team. And that's what a good producer is, and that's what a really good producer does. And he's the best. He's right there with us, and it helps us figure out topics and how we're going to present ideas that we have. So he's top notch. Come a long way from those early days, that's for sure.
Still got me going early on. Said, this is what we should do in an open. This is what we should do here. Then I started to grasp it.
Started
He
to
guided
figure
me
that.
along the way.
You know, it's interesting. I remember walking out of a game on the road. Sometimes Brian Hill and I will travel to do the pregame show. And I remember walking to the bus with Brian. This was early in his broadcasting career. And he looks at me and he goes, because there was I forget what road it was. There's some interesting people in TV, Ty. There are some very interesting people behind the scenes in those television trucks and working in these arenas. And he looked at me and he said, what makes these people want to do this? Where do these people come from? How do you answer that? I mean, right? There's certainly, it's great. It's a great group and we love it and we have a blast every night, but there are some interesting characters along the way for sure, aren't there?
Well, Ty, tell me if I'm wrong, Ty, but I think we've talked about this. You, at one point, you thought you wanted to be an on-air play-by-play or sportscaster, right? Or earlier, maybe in college or prior to that?
No.
Okay.
No.
We had that
I don't know where you got that one. I
never wanted to do that. Huh?
I knew I was behind the camera.
That was Al Michaels. That's when you talked to Al Michaels.
Yeah, I guess so. Must have gotten Ty and Al mixed up.
Maybe I took some classes. Obviously I took a lot of production classes in college, and there are some tapes of me on camera. And
ooh, I'd love to see that.
No, you're not going to see that.
That'd probably be better than us producing, though. I'll tell you that. But but there's some interesting characters. And what made you, right? And what made you get in? That's what you, right when you got in early is when you knew this is what you wanted to do. It's not something you always knew you wanted to do?
No, I went to Indiana. I grew up here in Florida. I went to Lake Howell High School. Drop another one there. But I grew up in Indiana until I was 13, and I always wanted to go to IU. And so after I graduated from high school, I went back to Indiana, went to college there. I was going to go to business. I really wanted to get into advertising, and because I like to be creative. I watched a lot of TV as a kid. I watched, obviously commercials and things like that. Probably too much, but so I wanted to get into advertising, and I was, Indiana has a good business school, so I was going to go there for business, and I figured I'd learn marketing and advertising to the business school. Well, I guess my research wasn't very good, because once I got there, they said, well, we don't have a advertising track in the business school. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, how do I do this then? And then they directed me to telecommunications, which is radio and television department. I knew nothing about it. So I started reading their, the syllabus and reading about the classes. Like, okay, cool. So I took a class that was kind of an introductory class about television and cable television and history of television, all this kind of stuff. And I took it and I loved it. And from that point on, I decided I'm going to go into, radio, television, track, and then go into advertising. And they had advertising classes in there. So I did that, but then I also took production classes, while I was doing that as well, because it's part of the degree. And then once I took my first production class, I was kind of hooked on that. And slowly I realized I'd rather go into the TV, the production side of it, than the advertising side of it. So, and the advertising side I learned was very competitive as well in Chicago, and the big, the glorified advertising executives. That's, those pitch meetings and things like that you see on TV. It's hard to get to. So
no doubt.
So yeah,
So Ty,
so once I did the production classes and everything and got into all the editing and the camera work and all that kind of stuff, I was hooked, and that's when I knew I wanted to work in this business.
yeah. So Ty, where was your favorite class at IU though? I mean, you gotta tell that story. Come on.
Well, yeah, my favorite class was coaching basketball by Bob Knight.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it
an
was.
actual class that they taught, and it taught everybody how to coach.
Well, he taught. It was an 8-week course that he taught at Assembly Hall in a room, and you would go in a room, and he would lecture for an hour, walk up and down the aisle lecturing, and it was mostly. I mean, he would tell you from the beginning that it was the only people that were in there should be education majors, because he was trying to teach people how to coach basketball at like a high school and be a teacher as well, and kind of manage your time and all that kind of stuff. Um, so he would lecture for an hour about setting up practice routines and managing your time and things like that. And then afterwards, then you would go out to the lab, which was to go out to the actual court at Assembly Hall, and the assistant coaches would run you through drills and teach you all these different drills
Wow.
that you would, that you should use as a high school coach and stuff. So that course went on for like 8 weeks. And it was awesome. It was awesome just to, growing up, admiring Bob Knight and having him like, just walking right by you in the aisle of the classroom. It was great. And, he would bring in, he's got a lot, JT, he's got a lot of friends that are just, through this industry. And so, so he would have friends stop by, just to see him, and he would bring him in to the lecture and have them talk to us. Like one day, Dick Shapp talked to us, for an hour, gave us a little lecture. It was great, so definitely my favorite class. And I got an A.
How difficult was it to get in that class? That must have been just, I would think a lot of students at IU wanted to take that class.
Yeah, I had to have been, and I don't remember. I remember trying to get in, and actually myself and my roommate got into it. So we took the class together. So I don't know. I don't remember it being difficult to get in. It had to have been to get in, but somehow I got lucky and we got it. So because it's only an 8-week course, and he only teaches it for 8 weeks during the year. So we took it our senior year. We were able to get in.
That's great.
Well, and you were there for some good Hoosier teams too, I imagine, right? So that experience could have only helped, right? So getting to be around that entire experience from a basketball standpoint.
Yeah, we went to a Final Four. I believe it was my sophomore year. Calbert Cheney, Red Calbert Cheney. He was my neighbor my junior year. And we had some great guys. So good teams.
Ty, take us back to so now you're out of college, you're here, you're trying to get into this TV industry, and now you've got a team that burst onto the scene, right? You've got an expansion team down here in Central Florida. There's a huge buzz in town. I've only seen the videos, but I see Matty Gukas with this giant Olive Garden pin on him, right? Like take us back to some of the early TV as you're trying to get this network started, and you got a new franchise, some of the fun, maybe funny things that you guys were doing back then.
Yeah. So, I mean, I came, I graduated from high school in 1989. That was the year the Magic came along. And so I immediately went, to IU, and the team started here. So I didn't really have much, I wasn't around the city or that much during the early years. Other than just every once in a while seeing him on TV and stuff. And when I would come back, I would try to get tickets and come to a game. But then after I graduated and moved back, I immediately started working in the in arena in the Jumbotron room, and that was like so that was 1993, and yeah, I mean it was just a different time. I mean when I started, that's when things were really good,
right.
with the teams. So with Shaq and Penny was my first year and everything, so it was just electric. And then we were, back then, TV, the technology wasn't what it is today, but we were just, we were I was logging highlights and things like that, and we were editing things, like just the old, linear way. And but it was a lot of fun. I mean, I was in the edit suite with, Rick Price and Kevin Cosgrove and Whit Watson. We'd be there late at night editing features and things like that. And so, you know, we did deep dives into these players and interviews and things like that we did for halftime features and things like that, which we've kind of gotten away from a little bit. I mean, we have the access, the Inside the Magic shows and stuff we do, but I feel like back then we really did a lot of profiles of the players and things like that. Got to know, Shaq and Nick and Penny and those guys, and even the Anthony Bowie's of the world and Donald Royals, and every once in a while we'd talk to JT and stuff. But no, it was a fun time.
He's always around.
Ty, so when you guys are having these production meetings, there's a lot of cooks in the room. How do you manage everybody's ideas, including your own ideas and Greg Hartung's ideas? And how do you manage what is going to make it into the broadcast that night?
Well, ultimately, it's people someone has an idea. It's a matter of how are we going to present the idea, video wise, graphically. How is it going to look? And if we can make it look good and they want to talk about it, then that's what we'll do. So there are sometimes there's ideas you're like, well, I just don't know how we're going to present that. It's a great idea in your head or whatever, or in my head or whatever, but I just don't know how the best way. And we don't have a lot of those. I mean, usually, obviously we're a tight knit group. We're a good group. So if somebody has an idea, it's usually pretty good, and we're usually able to figure out the best way to present it. And that it's mostly just a conversation of how we're going to do it. It's rare that there's somebody comes up with something and we're like, nah, that's no good. So
it's usually Dante's idea where you go, no, that's not very good.
Well, yeah.
When I start talking, everybody's zipping up their bags, right? As soon as hey, what do you guys think about? Okay, well,
time to go.
Time to go.
Dante's like, can we get this and this and this and this? I'm like, Dante, there's only like so many hours in a day. I can't do that.
Well, we got 120 sponsors to get in too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
There's that.
Let's get a word from Florida Lottery.
Those are my favorite. When I'm in the truck, those are my favorite. When I get to hear Ty say, "All right, roll out for whoever, Steak and Shake, roll out for Florida Lottery." Those are my favorites. Those are my favorites.
Yeah,
got to pay the bills, right, Ty?
You got to pay.
There you go.
Ty, how would you explain for everybody? Give us an example of Is This Anything? So we go through our meeting, we've got it all laid out, and you always save it for the end. All right, David, what you got for Is This Anything? So how is it? Let everybody know how it's presented to us and how we ultimately land on Is This Anything every night.
Well, usually, David, he'll start out with, well, I was wondering.
Right.
Which he says truthfully, what he says on the air is not too much different than what's in the meeting.
That's true. That's a good point.
So I was wondering, and he explains it, and then he'll lay something out and we'll go, yeah, okay. But
right.
Then I got something else, blah, 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 and then we're like, yeah, but then there's this other thing. And, so usually 2 or 3 he saves the best one for last, the one he knows we're going to use, but, sometimes there's like, well, this one we could use, later, when we play Cleveland next week, or, let's wait until, let's see how this plays out for a little bit longer and everything like that. So,
what I
try not to say too much.
Ty sets me up. He doesn't want to say much because he doesn't want to tip whether it's going to be a bell or a buzzer. And I don't want to totally give away who's deciding that, but let's just say he's on this podcast. But the thing is,
well, hold on. So are we making our big reveal here? Is this our big reveal? Are you saying Ty Eastham is responsible for the bell or buzzer?
Possibly. But from what I hear, there's sometimes a vote goes on in the truck. Is that right, Ty? That you don't totally decide.
It's not totally on me. I mean, I'll take a poll sometimes in the truck and say, what do you think? What do you guys think? And you don't have a lot of supporters in the truck, so
Oh no.
sometimes I
A lot
have
of
to,
support.
overrule them a little bit.
Yeah, right.
They're
So the
hard
tie
on
has
you.
final say. Tie is the
Yeah.
final word.
Yeah,
Ty
I'll have
is the
final
truck.
say. Yeah,
I
Let's
is
just get this out of the way, guys, real quick. For me, for David's, is this anything
that's true.
Twitter and all that?
yes.
Ty is the truck. Right?
Right.
JT doesn't have a buzzer under the table. JT's not out to get David, anything like
No.
that. I weigh in, and I'm sure Ty may think about maybe what I say. Probably not. Probably
That's
not.
true. Some of it.
Ty is
Sometimes
the
I'm
truck.
relying on JT to help me.
Yep, right.
Has JT ever swayed you, Ty? Has your decision been made, and then all of a sudden JT makes an argument on the air, and you go, "Oh, that's not a bad point."
I've never been swayed from a bell to a buzzer or vice versa.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
when I've been on the fence, that's when it's like, I don't know. And then, so then I
A
gotta,
buzzer to a bell. A buzzer to a bell. Yes. But not a
Yeah.
bell to a buzzer, right? Let's just
no,
get that. Let's lay it out there.
Let's
okay. All right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boy, JT
Okay.
gets
Yeah.
very sensitive when you
Well,
when
you
talk
gotta-
about
he's-
this
this is
He gets
7
a lot of
years.
abuse.
topic.
Yeah.
Oh, George, I
favorite is
get
when-
it. People will walk up to me and, and it's like, bell or buzzer tonight? It's a buzzer. Oh, way to go, JT. Yeah, I mean, come on. I didn't do this.
But no credits for the bells. David gets all the
No
credits
credits
for the
for
bells.
those.
Oh,
and you
yeah.
get-
David gets the credit for the bells. Yeah.
My
Nice.
favorite is like David in the meeting, or even like when we look at elements. I show them elements before the game, so they can see everything we've built, and he can see his graphic before we go on the air and everything. In the meeting, and then in the when we're doing it, it's nothing. He's saying it's nothing, and I'm like going, okay, yeah. Then when he gets on the air, it's like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. This is definitely, I've got this and I've got that.
Gotta sell it. Gotta sell it.
He tries to reel me in like it's it's not anything, but then he starts to make me feel bad, like
Yeah, but you
well,
know what,
maybe
Ty?
this
It
is
works
something.
both ways. Because in the meeting, you'll give me the old, oh yeah, let's go with that. I like that one. And then I sell it hard, and then
The old okey doke.
That's
The old
true.
rope-a-dope.
So that is,
We
that
don't.
is
But
true.
what's interesting, Liz, like a lot of times, Ty, we don't know. Like David has all this other information he doesn't
Right.
reveal, right, at the
Mhm.
meeting and everything. So,
Oh yeah, that's
there
true.
is
Exactly.
there's a little bit of a surprise for us. We
there's
kind
a
of know
little
where
game
he's
that
going.
there's a game within the game that goes on for sure.
It really is. I will say though, he's got a lot of bells this year.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, there's a lot of good material to
Yeah.
work with this year.
Yeah, I love a good buzzer.
What's
Love a
the
good buzzer.
impetus?
I know
What's
you
the
do.
what's the impetus for a buzzer before he even finishes speaking? When do you decide when do you
We've done
decide
that.
you're
We've done that a couple times, I think.
Yeah.
Those are fun. Those are fun.
Those are fun. But you know what, David, you did this, is it 7 years, 7 or 8 years ago?
Seventh year. And we started just because
Seventh
of
year.
what we're all talking about, really to entertain ourselves, because the team
Mhm.
was not winning, not winning many games. So, we came up with this idea collectively to do something fun, because I'm always at meetings, production meeting, throwing out, crazy things that I found in my research. So we just decided to put that in the show every night. And here we are 7 years later, and I can't get rid of it.
Well,
No.
but because it's not just basketball things where that pops
Right.
up. Like we'll be at dinner talking about something, and you'll throw something out there and go, "Is that anything?" Like, like
Right.
that's we'll have to talk
become
about
part
if
of
that's
the
anything. It has nothing to do with
vernacular.
basketball. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is certainly a lot more fun when you're winning. I guess, Ty, as we close this thing out, like, what would your advice be? There's a lot of people that are trying to break into this industry, and there's opportunities behind the scenes, I think, that maybe people aren't aware of. Don't know that everyone can get to kind of where you're at, but what would your advice be to people that are kind of coming into this industry? And then what you've seen, I mean, we're a close-knit group. We really are. It's kind of like family through the course of a season, all the time we spend together. I know that helps, right? You have good chemistry with the
Right.
people you work with, but maybe some advice for people trying to get in.
Yeah, I mean, it's been the same thing for me and for years. It's like, just if you can get in, just work hard and just try to learn as much as you can, and show that that you're valuable, that you can be of value, just whether it's, editing or, taking the initiative to edit your own stuff and things like that. I mean, in today's world with technology, it used to be when I started, if I wanted to edit something, I had to go to a room that had $1 million worth of equipment, expensive equipment to edit with. Now you can edit on your laptop. Any college student can get for $100 or whatever, can get editing equipment on their laptop and just start editing stuff. You can get stuff off of YouTube, off the internet. You can and make videos and things like that, and just show that you can tell stories and things like that. So it's a lot easier to show, what you can do or to practice and be creative than it used to be. So that's what I would tell somebody that wants to get in the industry is like use the technology that's out there that anybody can get to and show. I mean, people edit stuff on their phones and things like that. It's crazy what they can do. So if you have that interest, do that and show that to people, and then just make sure you research the industry and know where the internships are and where the opportunities might be. But don't be afraid to a lot of times people are like, well, I'm not getting paid for this or whatever. You got to just pay your dues and just get out there and work. And that's how it worked for me. So I had no idea about sports television until I took a class in college, and I had to do a paper. It was a sports television class, and I had to do a paper on something to do with sports television. So I reached out to the people at Sunshine Network and asked them, like, can you send me some info? And they sent me a whole pamphlet of stuff and all this information. I had no idea about it. And then I was like, hey, do you guys have internships? And they're like, well, we haven't before, but we're going to start this year. So I was actually Sunshine Network's first intern, just because I reached out to them and asked them about it.
That?
So that's you just gotta do the work.
Be proactive. I think your advice is good pretty much in any profession. Everything you said is true. George, I'm sure in your world, and I talk to a lot of young broadcasters and tell them that too. They've got so many opportunities now that we didn't have with the internet to get experience, or at least get a tape, or you don't even call it a tape anymore, do you? I don't know what you call it, whatever. But you've got a video.
File. You send them a file.
Send them a file, yeah. But the opportunities are out there. You just got to find what your niche is and go for it and do the work, like you said, Ty. That's great advice.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us, Ty. We figured once we got our third interview with Peg from Finance that it was time to have Ty on. It's not
way overdue.
Way overdue. We've all worked with you for 30 years and we've never had you on. So this was great to finally catch up with you.
Oh, this isn't your first podcast? I thought it was the first guest. Oh, okay. You guys have been doing this a while?
Thanks for listening.
Aren't you in charge of us?
Don't you oversee this?
Don't you oversee the podcast?
Well, let's see if we can't work in one more dinner at Cattleman's or something before this season is all said and done, right? Or you're not missing this road at all, Ty. You're not missing being on the road at all.
Only the food and the company.
That's right. All right. Thanks so much, Ty. That'll do it for this edition of Magic Pod Squad. We'll see you next time.